They call it the MSI Creator 15 OLED, and here are the benchmarks that are going to be coming up in just a few minutes. Now, first and foremost, if you're curious about my full thoughts on the build quality and usability of this laptop, I've done a full unboxing and I'll link that up at the end of this video. So we're gonna get into some details that I didn't cover in the unboxing, like the performance benchmarks, color gamut range, webcam, audio test of the speakers, and keyboard as well as trackpad. First and foremost, let's kick it off with the color gamut range on the screen and the brightness. Now this laptop does come with a 4K OLED screen, which is bright. As you can see, it's not as bright as I had really hoped for, but it is brighter than your average full HD screen, which is a high benefit if you're somebody who works outside a lot and maybe you're at cafes or coffee shops. Cafe and coffee shop, kind of the same thing. And so you're outside and you need that extra screen brightness. This will be a big benefit to you. Now the color gamut range is solid. It does hit the 100% DCI-P3 that was promised to us. And so I'm happy about that. And it's also a Delta E less than 2. Now regarding the webcam, here's a quick sample of the webcam for you. Here is the webcam on the MSI Creator 15, and it is quite bad. I'm not gonna lie, it's not good. The keyboard is something I really like. It has a quiet key press. It's really quiet. Like the new MacBook Pros, they almost always have that clicky sound. This keyboard is so quiet. I like how it's put together. Rather than giving us the full-size shift key, however, though, they gave us the full-size arrow key, which is probably the biggest negative I have to say about it. I'm a big full-size right shift key user. And so I'm so used to that when I go to type and maybe like do a caps on the shift key, I end up sometimes hitting the up arrow button. But again, that's more of a personal preference to me. The trackpad is something I wish they would have made a little bit bigger. On both the Z16 and the Creator 15, they give us this short trackpad. Rather than pushing this vent up a little bit and giving us a larger trackpad, they went with the shorter trackpad. To me, I think a larger trackpad makes more sense for creators, but that might not be a big issue to you. I've had people comment below during the unboxings and the full reviews and say they have this computer, they like the trackpad, and so it's not an issue to them. But to me, I would prefer a larger trackpad. Now here's a quick audio sample of the keyboard and trackpad in use, so you can check that out. And while we're doing audio samples, here's a quick sample of the speakers in use so you can hear what they sound like. Now, this laptop is not the thinnest on-the-go Creator laptop, but it is thinner than a lot of the big chunky gaming laptops that are on the market. And you can see the weight and thickness coming up on the screen now. It's definitely a lot lighter than something like the Legion 5 Pro, which is well over 5 pounds. It's definitely lighter than that. So it's a more on-the-go friendly package. Now, the ports are something that I do like. We have a USB Type-C, HDMI, USB Type-A, and your power port. On the other side, we have two USB Type-A's, RJ45, USB Type-C, as well as your headphone jack. So it's got good connectivity. Now, one thing that I will point out as I was looking at this laptop is it opens and closes very easy with one hand. So no issues there. And then because of the strong aluminum top cover, it doesn't have a ton of screen flex, which is really nice. A lot of the bigger screened gaming laptops have a massive amount of screen flex. Because of this strong aluminum top cover, we're not having a lot of screen flex. So well done there. Now, battery life was one area that I was pretty disappointed. With all the fancy battery life saving settings turned on in the command center, plus screen brightness below 50% at about 40 to 35%, I still wasn't getting great battery life in both like productivity, streaming, and as well as creator tasks like video editing and Photoshop. For Photoshop, I ran the Puget Systems Photoshop benchmark on repeat until the battery went dead. And for video editing, I had a 4K project with motion graphics, music, audio, second camera for like B-roll footage. And I ran that on loop until the battery went dead, and just the results weren't great. I wish this had better battery life capabilities. Now, while I'm on a bit of the negative train, one thing I want to point out is the fan noise of this laptop. Really, no matter what you're doing, the fan's always running. And I really haven't been fond of that. It's just this slight, about 30 decibel fan going, even at idle. As you can see, I have nothing up on the screen right now, and the fan just continues to run. I'll give you a little sample of what that sounds like, just picking it up here. So that fan noise persists basically when you're always using the laptop. Even when I put the laptop on quote unquote silent mode, it still gives me the fan. Now, perhaps maybe over time, there's a system update that they can run to this and that will alleviate that. But overall, you're gonna have fan noise on this laptop. Now, before we get into the performance benchmarks, if you're curious about the exact pricing and availability, you can head down in the description below and click that link. Now, if you do make a purchase to that link, I will get a small commission, but at no extra cost to you. But of course, that's what keeps this channel alive and the helpful content coming your way. Now, one question people often have is the upgrade path. And on this laptop, you can upgrade both RAMs and you have SSD upgrade opportunity. So the upgrade path is good on the MSI Creator 15. Now, let's go ahead and jump into the benchmarks. What we have here is the i7 11800H, the RTX 3060, 16 gigs of RAM, and a 1TB SSD. Now let's jump into the simulated benchmarks and take a look at Cinebench R20, R23, Geekbench single core, and multi-core. Now, compared to some of the other laptops toting the i7 and especially the Ryzen laptops and the new MacBook Pros, the MSI Creator 15 really falls down the charts on the simulated benchmarks. But of course, life isn't run in simulated benchmarks, so let's get into the Autodesk 3ds Max, Autodesk Maya, PTC Creo, and SolidWorks to see how this laptop performs. And as you can see, it hits pretty much the mid-range on my charts. Now let's get into the 3D modeling tests, and as we look at them, this laptop does good. It doesn't do amazing, but for the fact that it has an i7 11800H and an RTX 3060, I really expected more out of it. I was running everything on the high performance mode to see if I could get the most power out of this laptop, and it just didn't seem to rise to the occasion like some of the other laptops. For instance, the HP Omen 17 had a really great performance with this exact same configuration. And so that's why I thought, man, MSI could really work to optimize this laptop a little bit more through maybe some of the software updates, and that would give us a great leg up on the competition. But it is not the best performing i7 11800H and RTX 3060 combination I've seen on my channel. Now moving over to After Effects, it did do well. It got into the 900s, but again, that HP Omen with the i7 11800H was in the thousands as far as the After Effects benchmark. So like I was saying, I really want to see better performance out of the same components, just in a different laptop brand's system. Now, as we shifted towards video editing, export times were really good on this laptop, hit the benchmarks like I was expecting. So if you're gonna be a video editor with the MSI Creator 15, you're in good hands. Also, the playback was solid. No drop frames for 4K, some for B-RAW, and then saw some struggles in red footage, but that's really any laptop on the market right now. Red footage is really heavy and they're really struggling through that footage. Now looking at DaVinci Resolve, the export times were okay. Intel doesn't do amazing in DaVinci Resolve like Ryzen or the new MacBook Pro, M1 Pro or M1 Max, but overall you had good export times. Now the playback was solid in DaVinci Resolve. Really no matter what laptop you have, if you know it's the latest MacBook Pro, M1 Pro, and M1 Max, or just simply the MacBook Pro M1, or you have a dedicated GPU, you're gonna be fine in DaVinci Resolve with playback. Now, one of the favorite tests that I like to do is run the export time out of Premiere Pro at different fan modes. So I check the export time, thermals, and fan noise at each of the modes to see how well this laptop performs under stress. Overall, the thermals are good on this laptop. They're in the high 70s, which is a really good sweet spot for me. I don't like to see high 80s or even low to mid 90s. It's pushing the laptop a little too far. It's a little too hot. It gets uncomfortable on your hands on the keyboard deck. This laptop stayed in the high 70s, which was good. So that's a big positive for the MSI Creator 15. Now, as we move on to Photoshop, we saw the laptop almost hit the 800 point range. I wish it would have been in the 800s just because we're seeing other laptops, like I mentioned, the HP Omen, in the mid 900s. And so this laptop comes with the same components and it's dragging behind. So I really wish it would have gotten over that 900 hump and proved itself that the components that it has can perform the way they should. So MSI, one thing I would say is if you can make this laptop more optimized, you'd be in good hands because you got great components on your hands here. So overall, I've run a Z16 and MSI Creator 15 comparison. I would definitely check out that video because those are the two MSIs really neck and neck right now. And I really do like the Z16. There's some things I really like about it. So I would recommend checking out that video. Otherwise, links if you're ready to make a purchase, likes if this video has brought you some value, and subs if you don't miss out on the future uploads. I'll see you here in the next video.